The season is almost over. Liverpool are out of the Champions League, unfortunately. We're out of the FA Cup, unfortunately. But we are still in the race for the Premier League title, a race which we've essentially won.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
As much as I don't want to admit it, but we are almost at the top. We are still in the Carabao Cup final this Sunday against Newcastle. But beyond that, it's time to start looking at what happens next. Because essentially the season is almost done. Depending on how the Carabao Cup goes, the Premier League title's almost in the bag. You need to start looking ahead at what comes next in the upcoming summer window. And today, we are going beyond the COP and looking at what we think will happen this summer. So in front of me, I've got a tier list. I've got keep, sell, loan. There is the entire Liverpool first team squad there, as well as players on the bench. A few players who are out on loan who are significant fees for the club. I have forgot Calvin Ramsey, I won't lie, but he's one who I think is going to get sold just to sort of clear that one up. But the majority of the first teamers and players you'd expect in and around the squad are here. And if you could, then please click like and subscribe and let me know in the comments who you think will be moved on and if you disagree with any of my selections today. We're going to start off with the sort of lower tier members of the squad, the ones that aren't getting that much game time or are out on loan. Starting off with Stefan Bajcetic, who's gone on loan he was at Salzburg, he's then moved on to Las Palmas. He's someone who I'd be keeping. I think he was exceptional under Jurgen Klopp, and you need that backup number 6 who can play the same sort of style as Gravenberch, someone who's going to pick up the ball, move it well, get forward, and isn't so much so a traditional number 6 who's there to defend and just break up play. Bajcetic is the closest representation of that behind Gravenberch, more so than I would actually say Tyler Morton, who I would look to sell. He said himself he wants first team football, and you can recoup a decent fee for him. He's a good player, but he said himself that he's frustrated and he's only been getting minutes in the FA Cup, which we're of course out of. Thank you very much, Plymouth. And you can get a good fee for him. Same with Reece Williams. Maybe not so the good fee, but he's just someone who isn't getting the game time. He's someone who he's out on loan every single season. He's not going to break into this first team, bar what he did in the 2021 season. He's someone you could get a bit of money for, maybe 2-3 million if you're lucky. Same with Nat Phillips, who I'm shocked is still at this club, but you can get money for him, move him on, he deserves it. Now we come into a tricky predicament because there's a couple of players here who we do want to be keeping. James McConnell is one I'd be looking to absolutely keep. The fact that he convinced Arne Slot to keep him beyond the January transfer window when he was meant to go out on loan tells you all you need to know. He's been terrific when he has played, even under Jurgen Klopp in the Cup final. He looked fantastic this season in the FA Cup. He looked great. He's someone who should be in and around the squad and you can build. He's a very good player, very good on the ball, very good off the ball in particular. PSV Eindhoven, he looked terrific. No reason for me to move him on whatsoever. Same with Ben Doak. Now, this one's probably going to cause a bit of a stir because on one hand, you've got a winger who you can fetch 20-25 million for. These are the fees being touted around by the likes of Crystal Palace and Ipswich. Middlesbrough supposedly want to sign him on a permanent deal. Ben Doak is a perfect backup option to Mo Salah. And if Salah does go, you can't be losing every right winger. Chiesa is supposedly rumoured to be leaving the club to go back to Italy. Kate Gordon is probably never going to hit that level. He's someone else I forgot to include in this. But Ben Doak is one who I'd be absolutely looking to keep. He's been terrific in the Championship, bar the injuries he's been getting. And I think he's someone that you can start to propel more into the first team. One player similar is Rio Ngamoa. He's very young. He's only just turned 16. I'd be looking to loan him out, get him some game time, maybe in League One, maybe even the Championship. When he played Accrington Stanley in the FA Cup, he looked superb. And yes, I know Liverpool, Accrington, there's a big difference in quality, but he looked really good on the ball. He was terrific at trying to beat a man, did so successfully at points. Just the end product was lacking at moments where he really needed it to matter. And I think you could loan him out and get some good game time for him, in all honesty. We're going to go sort of away from this area here on the top left because that's where all the attackers are. And we're going to move more to the back line, starting off with goalkeepers. Alisson, there is no reason to get rid of Alisson, best keeper in the world, bar none. I understand there was a narrative around it that he may move on. He said himself he wants to fulfill his contract. He said himself that he loves the club and wants to stay. Mamardashvili's not having a great season. I see no reason to drop Alisson, who's in top form again, for someone who's maybe not going to hit the ground running in the way that we think in Mamardashvili, who's going to be a backup keeper. Let's be real. Yaros is one who I think is probably going to get sold anyway, as is Keane Kelleher. Now, Kelleher's one that I'd be looking to move on purely for his benefit. I think Kelleher's terrific. He's the best backup in European football, arguably. When he's come in, we've not missed Alisson. That's how good Kelleher is. But he needs the game time. He's in his mid-20s. He's only got 2 years left on his contract, I think, and if we get him into that final year, the fee is going to dip majorly. You've got a top quality keeper there. You can get a good fee for him, and I think it's time to move him on. I still stand by. I think if he went to Celtic, that would be a perfect move for him. It's a perfect level for him. They need a long-term goalkeeper. He's going to win countless trophies. You can move Kelleher on and get a good fee for him, and I think it's the time to do so for his benefit, for our benefit, and yeah. Slot said himself, Alisson's number one. Kelleher's not going to get in the team. I'm amazed he's still here this summer, to be on this window, or this season even, good God. And yeah, time to move him on. Joe Gomez as well, I think he's another one you can look to sell. He's never going to reach the level that we necessarily need. He's a great backup. He's so good at deputising, and he's very versatile. Last season he played left back, right back, centre back, CDM at one point. And when he plays in each of those positions, he's got a different skill set, but it's time to move him on, get the money for him. The injuries are creeping back in. Get a bit of a fee for him while you still can. And I don't think Slot particularly rates Joe Gomez. He wanted to move him on in the summer, but didn't. Newcastle were interested. Crystal Palace were interested. Now's the time. We'll go to a different position. Why not? I think Andrew Robertson is a keep. He's definitely dipped in terms of pace, but he's still a leader. PSG looked terrific. City, he looked terrific. He does have those games where he's dipping, but he's in his 30s now. He's gave so much energy while at this club. His energy to run forward. It's going to wear you down a bit. Slot wants a different type of fullback, but I think Robertson still contributes. I think keep him for this summer. Next season will be his last season at Liverpool, and you bring in someone behind him who can eventually look to replace him. Maybe Kerkez, Aiton Yori's a name that's been touted around. That's the way to do it. Don't just ship Robertson out and just expect someone to come in straight away. With all the insecurity of the back line, is Van Dijk going, is Konate going, Trent's going, you don't want to change too much, and you need those leaders and people with experience, and Robertson can still contribute in that regard. One player who I don't think can, however, is Kostas Tsimikas, who, great deputy. I think he's a very talented fullback. His delivery might even be better than Robertson's nowadays, and I think he'd get into 8 to 10 Premier League teams if you do it, like your Brentford, Crystal Palace, maybe even an Aston Villa. But he's reached his limit. He's in his late 20s. He's a serviceable player to the club, but you need money this summer to free up and spend on other positions. And I think Tsimikas is one of the higher value commodities. He's just signed a long-term deal about a season and a half, 2 seasons ago. You can do well with that. And he's not necessarily the strongest backup that we could get. And he's not the future left back in the first team squad. So that's, time to move him on as well. Van Dijk will be an absolute keep, and I'm convinced that he's going to sign a deal. He's saying all the right things. I know that PSG video of him talking to the owners, but supposedly it was something to do with he was apologising for the comments he made following the first leg in the Champions League. He's not going to be speaking to them about a move at Anfield. Let's just get that right out of our heads. Ibu is another one, absolute keep. PSG can sod off. They're not having him. Get him on a new deal for a period of time this season. I think he was Liverpool's best centre-back. Van Dijk got injured, didn't get injured. God, touch wood, that doesn't happen. But before he got injured against Real Madrid, Konate, he was our best centre-back, I think. He's came back, he dipped slightly, and now he's right back to the top alongside Van Dijk. No reason to get rid of him. Jarrell Quansah is one I'd be looking to keep. I think Quansah's great. He's deputising at right back at points, so I think Liverpool are probably going to look to bring in a right back in the summer window. He's more suited to a centre-back. He did have shaky moments at the beginning. Obviously, the Ipswich game was... he gets subbed off at half-time. West Ham, he scored an own goal. But he's improved massively, and he looks solid when he comes into the team. Against PSG, I thought he looked really good, and I was quite nervous about him in that back line. But he did really well, and I'm happy that he's getting into the first team more and more as the season's going on, albeit due to injuries to the likes of Joe Gomez and Conor Bradley. Speaking of Conor Bradley, he's an absolute keep. I think he's our first team right back next season. He's earned the right, absolutely. Get someone behind him, give Conor Bradley the chance to shine, because I think Trent is going to leave. I'd be wanting to keep him, but I'm going to put him in sell purely because I think he's going anyway. This Real Madrid news is... it's all but signed, and I'm just kind of bored of it. I just want to know, and I can move on with my life. You're not the first. You won't be the last. I want Trent to stay. I think Trent's skill set is second to none in terms of his passing range. But I'm convinced that he's gone. I'm just resigned to that fact. There's a few we're going to blow through. Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch. We'll get the sort of that midfield trio that we signed in one go out of the way, because they've been world class. McAllister, more so than I think a lot of people give appreciation for. All of them fit the system so well. Szoboszlai is the engine. Gravenberch is the makeshift number 6, has been one of the best players in the Premier League this season. And McAllister's skill set, he's so good off the ball. His energy, his press, Everton in particular, he looks so good in this team, and I'm really happy that that's the midfield three we got, because imagine Slot coming in and he's having to use the likes of Henderson, Milner, Fabinho, all these types of players to fit his system. We'd be in a completely different spot this season. So credit to Klopp, where it's very much deserved to get those three through the door before stepping down. Endo of those four, though, that we signed in 2023 is a sell for me. I've got no hatred towards Endo whatsoever. I think when he comes on, he clatters into people. He is your proper James Milner role, with one goal up, get in there, break up play, just fly into people when you need to. He does that so well. He's been in the back four this season against Southampton in the League Cup, as well as Accrington Stanley in the FA Cup. He's played right back at point. He comes on and he shows off his skill set, but it's not a skill set that Arne Slot wants, and he wanted to sort of move him on in the summer, you got the opinion of, and I think that it is going to be time for him to move on this summer window, get a bit of a fee for him. Serviceable player for 2 seasons, but beyond that you're not going to get much else, despite what Slot says is top level professionalism from the Japanese international. Curtis Jones I would keep, but I do think he is starting to come to that point where it's sort of shit or get off the pot kind of thing. Like, he has games where he looks amazing, and then he has other games where he holds onto the ball too long, loses it, and this is your time to step up now and really show what you're capable of. He has games like we've seen this season where he's come on and he's made a big difference. Chelsea, I think, being the most notable earlier on in the season, but then he has other games where he just doesn't impact it, and you wonder, what's he doing in the starting lineup? Should he be there? Southampton, he looked really poor, holds on to it too long. Sometimes his passing can be a bit negative. I just want to see more from him. Harvey Elliott is 100% a keep for me. There's rumours that Slot wants to sell him, and when I do a tier list video on what I think Slot will do, Elliott will probably be a sell. I would be keeping him. I see no reason to get rid of one of our best assets in this team. He comes off the bench and he makes a difference. His energy, his ability to score a goal. Do not get rid of Elliott for me. You need to keep him around. If we're looking to build long term, you've got a 22-year-old or 21 even, Harvey Elliott there, who makes a difference. And I know that he doesn't quite fit Slot's system. I think at points he's had to play in the wing. Sometimes he's the number 10. Other times he's a bit of a centre mid. Number 10, as a backup to Szoboszlai at the moment, he can impact the game. Saw that against Southampton in the League Cup earlier this season, to go back to that one. He does have moments where you just think, you could do more, but I see no reason to get rid of Elliott at the moment. Absolutely not. Unlike 3 of the front 6 in this Liverpool team, who I would be looking to move on. We're going to talk about the obvious one. Mo Salah's a keep. I think he'll sign a deal as well. As the days go on, I am getting a little less sure about it. There's only 10 games left, and some of the rumblings, some of the things you see, but I think he will sign a new deal and stay. Another one I'd be looking to keep, Cody Gakpo. Absolutely, he's had a sort of renaissance season under Arne Slot. He was actually playing him as a left winger, no disrespect to Klopp, but he was using him as a centre mid, a number 10, a centre forward, a left winger, a right winger at points. Slot has said, you're a left winger. That's it. That's where your best position is, and that's where we're getting the best out of you. Fine, because he flourishes in that role. Unlike Luis Diaz, who I am looking to sell. Now, Diaz has had injuries. Diaz has had a dip in confidence, a dip in form. He started the season off like a house on fire, and he was one of the best attackers in the league. First 7, 8, 9, 10 games along those lines, he was terrific. United, Ipswich, Brentford, I think he scored in all 3 of them. He's fell off a cliff, and thankfully him and Gakpo have had a sort of interchange where it was Diaz was great up until this point, hit a wall, and then Gakpo just took over, and he's been even better. I don't think Diaz fits Slot's system. He wants to run into space. Slot wants him to come back and pick up the ball and run with it to try and beat players. That's not what Diaz wants to do. I don't think he fits Slot, and I think PSG was the sort of last straw, possibly. That first half, he was awful. And I don't know, he does get the odd assist. He did against Southampton a few weeks ago. You know, he can contribute. Newcastle, he did the same. But I don't think Slot particularly appreciates him as a winger. And I think when Gakpo gets back fully fit, he's going to start over him. I think Gakpo starts on Sunday as well, actually. Darwin Núñez is a sell. You're in your third season. You're the most expensive player. There's still question marks whether you're good enough. I say that all the time. The PSG miss, I think, was just the sort of, there's no coming back from that. And I don't want to just completely slam him and say, God, he's awful, get rid. He's not. He does have a certain skill set. And I think for a certain team, he'd do amazingly well. He can finish the ball. It's just his confidence. He doesn't fit what Slot wants to do. He wants an attacker who's going to come deep and play others in, bring others into play. Núñez is not that type of player. He has the moments like the first PSG leg, Tottenham earlier on this season. He looked terrific. But there's too few and far between. And yes, the late winner against Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, I think I said Brentford, but there's just too much going on at the moment. He can have those flourishes, but it's too far, too far in between. He cannot be the first team option. Neither can Diogo Jota, who I think the injuries have finally toppled him. He's not the same player. I think he's a terrific option to have off the bench, and if you're talking about him being a backup who can come on and occasionally get a goal like we saw against Fulham and West Ham, then absolutely fine, keep him. Super sub Diogo Jota. But if you're talking about someone who can be a first teamer, he's not that. If I was to make the decision, I would potentially keep him just one more season. I think just to sort of, Núñez will go, we'll bring in someone else, Jota can be a backup, move Jota on, and then you can bring in another backup. Just so we're not changing too much, because we don't know what's going on with Salah. This is just me being optimistic. And Federico Chiesa is one who I would potentially, I want to keep him, but I think alone might actually do him quite well. Look, people will say, well, you're selling Diaz, you need depth. Absolutely we do, but we've not needed Chiesa this season for depth because Salah's been on top form. I think if you keep Salah, you can loan Chiesa out. If you sell Salah, you need to keep Chiesa because we're going to lose Núñez. Diaz is probably going to go. There's no guarantee Jota sticks around either. I think alone we're doing well though. Get him some game time, get him up to fitness, and then move on from there. And let me know what you think in the comments. Any you agree with, any you disagree with. Make sure to click like and subscribe. And yeah, let's see where we go in the summer. Thank you very much for watching.